Okay, right to go? Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll begin by acknowledging the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, including traditional custodians of this land, the Wadandi and Kaniang people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past and present. We'll declare the meeting open at 5 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed and digitally recorded in accordance with Council Policy EMCP2. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. While every endeavour has been made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting, loud comments or noises may be picked up in the recording. In attendance tonight, we have myself, Vivian McCarthy, Councillor Gubler, Councillor Patrick, Councillor Glover, Councillor Lindeman, Councillor Shand, Councillor Bailey and Councillor Mitchell. Staff attending tonight are CEO Nick O'Connor, Manager Development Services Michelle Dennis, Acting Director of Finance and Corporate Lauren Clifford, and Administration Officer Corporate Services Sam Farquhar. We welcome everyone in the public gallery. Thank you for attending tonight, and any community members participating via the live stream. Now, before moving on to apologies at 2.1, our meeting procedures, local law at clause 8.2 requires us to stand when we speak, councillors, but this prevents us from using the microphones. So would councillors like to move to suspend clause 8.2, members to rise? Councillor Shand and Councillor Lindeman, all in favour? Carried. Moving on to 2.1, apologies. We have an apology from Director of Operations, Ross Marshall, and we welcome Manager Development Services, Michelle Dennis, in his place. And we have an approved leave of absence at 2.2. At our April Ordinary Council meeting, Council approved Councillor Davies' leave of absence for today's meeting. At 2.3, councillors, are there any other requests for leave of absence? Thank you. Moving into some announcements. The Bike Rescue Program is underway again this year, with 14 students learning how to repair and refurbish their bikes. The program will culminate on Friday with fun and pizza on the pump track. Telling Tales in Bailing Up is on again, with 14 students, taking place on the 12th and 13th of July. Telling Tales is a celebration of stories with several published WA authors, presenting interactive workshops to children aged 4 to 14 years. And you can see the link on the screens there at tellingtalesbailingup.com.au. Tickets are on sale now for the famous Bailing Up Medieval Carnival to be held on the 23rd and 24th of August. This is a dressing up opportunity and you can get along for the carnival's 30th year this year. The link is there on the screen and it's through Humantrix where you can book your tickets. And then leading into that festival is the feast held the night before. It's a much loved ritual that happens before the carnival on the 22nd of August, and you're recommended to get in and get your tickets now as they sell out fast. Once again, the link is up there on the humanitix.com site. And finally, the Leschenault Catchment Council is running a Preston River Community Day planting on Sunday the 27th of July, and you can register to volunteer using the link on the screen. Once again, a Humanitix link. Moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. Division 6, Subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act 1995 states that care should be taken by all councillors, committee members and staff to ensure that a financial or impartiality interest is declared and that they refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. Councillor Mitchell has declared a proximity interest regarding item 9.1.2 as she lives on Valentine Road and is not on the same watercourse and knows one of the neighbours. And Councillor Anita Lindeman has declared a proximity interest regarding item 12.1.1. Neither of those declarations require the councillor to leave the room. Moving into 5.1, public question time. There are no responses to previous public questions that were taken on notice. So moving into 5.2, public question time. Are there any questions from the gallery? No? We have no... is it a presentation or a deputation? Yeah. We have no presentations tonight, but we do have a deputation from Mr. Henderson at 6.3. Sorry, there are no petitions as well at 6.2. 6.1 and 6.2. Yeah.
Is this on? Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
Madam Mayor and councillors. I'd like to just say, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be able to present and speak with you guys. My name is Peter Henderson. I'm the applicant of the quarry at Beelurup Road in Donnybrook. I just to talk a little bit about myself, I won't go into great detail, but my experience is quite vast in building stone and quarrying and processing. I've been doing it for around 45 years now, all across WA from Broome down to Esperance. I've operated quarries. I've registered quarry manager for many, many years now. And through the mining extractive licence that we're talking about, we're dealing with now, has been operational for over 20 years. And I bought it at about 15-year mark. And unfortunately, the partners that I had in the business at the time didn't want to expand into Donnybrook. So it was put on the back burner. But since I've sold that business and I've taken it on my own, a few years ago we transferred the licence. So I was involved with it for quite a lot of time previously, but it was basically in caretaker mode for those years. The Beelurup stone that I'm referring to is a A-grade sandstone. Now, A-grade meaning it's the better of quality of sandstone that's available. It's been exported to places in Europe in the past. I've had to quarry blocks from Donnybrook and put them in containers and send them to China to get them processed and then bring them back. So it's a lot of cost. My aim is to promote Donnybrook and the sandstone and get it back to where it was before. There was great demand for it for the buildings, as you all know, around Perth and everywhere. It's no better place than, example is Federation Square in Melbourne. The whole facade is from Beeler-up sandstone. And I also had the honour of doing all the plaza out of the Kimberley sandstone, which I had at the time. So my experience is quite vast, and I'm very happy to be a good citizen for Donnybrook and promote Donnybrook everywhere. Now, I've agreed to the conditions that have been set down by council for them to operate the quarry. I don't have any problems with that, except for those who know the type of equipment we've put in the processing shed now that's there is state-of-the-art stuff, and it's really it operates itself a lot. It's very quiet. It makes absolutely no dust whatsoever, and it needs to run for long hours. So that's my only concern, is that if we do get a big job, which we hope we do, and we might have to continue a longer hours on Saturday, but I'll go through that later, perhaps when we've got the noise report in, because I'm conscious about the noise and the dust complaints that we've had over the past, and I think we've addressed them pretty well with the techniques that we're using now that has improved over the years heaps. The quarrying techniques now, when I started out quarrying, was all jackhammers, very noisy, dusty, horrible stuff. Now we use diamond saws, they're lubricated with water, there's absolutely no dust and very low noise. So that's how I extract the building stone. My experience is only in building stone. I'm not into blasting, I'm not into the bulk movements. And the quarry at Beeler-up, where the colour is situated is in about the first 10 metres of depth. Although we've had it drilled, grid drilled, and to ascertain the volume that's there. There is a huge volume there, but we will only be taking out a very small portion of that because we chase the quality and the colours and things like that everybody's after. Well, I'm very happy to take any questions from any councillors or anybody that wants to have a look, and you're all welcome to come at any time and inspect the quarry. Get peace of mind.
Thank you very much, Mr Henderson. Do councillors have any questions for Mr Henderson? Councillor Lindeman?
Sure, thank you. Through the chair. Thanks for that. Can I just ask you, with you cut the blocks, what do you do with the residual sort of, I guess,
Sorry?
after you've cut the blocks
Yeah.
or taken them out? Because I'm not familiar with the process, okay?
Yeah.
You cut the blocks from the stone, the major part of the stone. What do you do with the, I suppose, the residual, the leftovers?
Meaning the broken and reject
the broken
blocks
pieces.
and things like that?
Yeah.
Well, what the stone we're after is in a cubic volume. So we like to cut the blocks on all sides. They're about 8 to 10 tonne block. So that's fairly large. It weighs about 2.5 tonne a cube, so you get an idea. So when we're processing and quarrying, you've got about 50% waste. To get one block out, you're going to waste just about as much. So that broken blocks, we make them and use them for garden walls, spalls. We call them spalls. They're like footballs, if you like. And they're quite sought after for making garden walls, edges and buildings even. Smaller than that, it gets crushed into rubble that's used in flower beds and all kinds of things. And even the dust that is generated from the saws is, as I said, it's cut wet and it's stored until it's dried, and it's put in through a screen, and it's put in bulker bags. Then it's also sold. So there's one company chasing me at the moment. They want huge volumes of it, but they're going to add it into paint. So there's the problem that I've seen for many years. Most quarries are not successful because they don't utilise all the product. There's an example out there at the moment. There's everything that wasn't an A-grade block was thrown over the edge. And it just builds up and builds up, and it's no good for anybody. And eventually they go bust. But I have always maintained that you use everything and don't waste anything, because all stone is good. It's just used incorrectly. And that's where the problems come. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Glover?
Through the chair, thanks for the presentation, Peter. That was really good, and I went out there on Monday and had a look, asked a lot of questions. My question today, though, is around the bond that's held with the Shire. It's 30,000 plus 5,000 as well. What's your understanding about the reason why that bond is being held for?
Well, those bonds, I believe, are held in place to go towards rehabilitation, and also for the crossovers and road maintenance.
May I continue? Thank you for that. I'm just thinking that $30,000 for rehabilitation and $5,000 for road repairs is a very small amount of money, and it was an amount that was set 20 years ago when the first application, or I think it was the first application, was approved. Do you think that that's enough?
Well, to rehab a quarry is going to cost you millions. So, no, it's not enough. A lot of quarries are left abandoned and in poor state. I don't agree with that. I've rehabilitated a couple of limestone quarries in my past that have gone back to pasture, that were on Crown leases and stuff like that. If you do the appropriate measures, it can be quite a beautiful thing after. But I have found also in the past that the shires that I've been involved with have asked for not rehabilitation because they want to use it for landfill facility sites if it's a hole in the ground. Beelurup won't be a hole in the ground because of its elevation. So all it will be is just a gentle contoured pasture land. That's what it will go back to.
Thank you. Any Councillor Lindeman?
Thank you. Through the chair, could I ask you just directly and indirectly how many people you think may be employed through this industry?
Sorry, I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, too many years. Yeah.
Okay, I'll say that louder. I'm sorry. Through the chair again, how many people do you think you employ directly and indirectly through this industry?
Yes, that's a good question. Because of the nature of the stone and our business ethic, we will probably be only employing within the quarry and the processing shed about 3 to 4 people. This is all that's required to keep them in full-time work, rather than campaigning it and on and off again. But the spin-off for the stone production is that because of the range of products that we can produce, we would create work for, I don't know how many people, stonemasons, landscapers, tilers, construction workers, it goes on. During Federation Square, I remember when that was built, that employed around about 400 to do the actual facade. So I can't really say much more on that, I'm sorry. But the industry will regulate itself. It has been lower than what I had hoped over the last probably 15, 20 years because of the lack of demand, and the processing facilities were just not there to get it done. But Donnybrook Stone is the love of my life, I can tell you. And I think if if you respect the stone, you see the beauty in it. And I think that's what people like to see. I've got constant emails coming backwards and forwards to supply blocks into China and India. I don't want to see that happen with the bulk of our stone going overseas to everybody else's projects, although in Germany they do use our Donnybrook stone for rehabilitation on a lot of the old buildings and that because it matches the same quality that they've got and the same colours. It's quite sought after.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr Henderson? Well, thank you, Mr Henderson. That was a very comprehensive presentation, so I really appreciate
Tried
that.
to save it in the time.
And I did neglect to mention before you started that was regarding item 9.1.1, development application 24084, extractive industry for Donnybrook Stone at lot 102 Beelarup Road in Beelarup.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
At item 6.4, there are no delegate reports, which brings us to adopting en bloc items. So we have the recommendation to adopt the following items en bloc. Ordinary Council meeting held 28th of May at 7.1. 8.1, Local Emergency Management Committee meeting held on the 6th of May 2025. Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on the 14th of May 2025. Item 9.1.5, Indigenous mural to complement the Yarning Circle at the high school. 9.2.1, Schedule of accounts paid as at the 31st of May 25. 9.2.2, Statement of Financial Activity Report for the period ending 31st of May 2025. And finally, 9.2.3, Council Policy FIN/CP9 related party disclosures. Is that? Okay. Right. Would councillors like to move the en bloc? Councillor Mitchell and Councillor Patrick. And all in favour? Carried. That takes us into item 9, reports of officers, and 9.1, Director of Operations. And the first item is 9.1.1, where we've just heard the deputation. Development application 24084, extractive industry for Donnybrook Stone, renewal of the licence at lot 102 Beelarup Road in Beelarup. Now, councillors, we have an executive recommendation with conditions and advice. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Mitchell. And a seconder. Councillor Glover. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. I'm a firm believer Donnybrook's open for business and we need to do that. Thank you, the Manager of Development Services. You provided us with an awful lot of reading and an awful lot of conditions, which I actually think they drilled into everything that I could possibly think of. Admittedly, there are a few things I went, not sure about, but yeah, between the agenda briefing and now, I'm happy with them. Like Councillor Glover mentioned, I raised my eyebrows about the bond, but I understand it's a bond rather than a full cost. So yeah, particularly I do know that $5,000 for roadworks will fill one pothole. So I do understand that that could be a bit lean. So yeah, I just think it's a good project. It's something we've had in the district for many, many years and we need to encourage it to keep going. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Glover?
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Mitchell. I agree. We need to be seen as being open for business. It does look like a really good business that's proposed, something that the Donnybrook Stone's been used around the world. and it's really highly regarded. And going out there and having a look, there's no waste. There's, like it's a really, it's a in high demand, this stone, whether it's the dust or the silica, the small bits, the square bits, like the paving bits, it's in high demand as well. But I do have some questions in regard to the wording of that $35,000 bond as well, and making sure or ensuring that Mr Henderson is aware of what that bond entails.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Shand?
I agree. I believe we're open for business. I think the reports are phenomenal. I'm just still concerned about the Department of Health and no comment in relation to that, and the silica potential for fallout from dust. So until that is further investigated, I don't feel at peace about agreeing to it.
Thank you, Councillor Shand. Would anyone like to speak for the recommendation? Councillor, sorry, just a moment. You have spoken. Did you have a question? Okay.
I'm just wondering if it would be possible to change the wording in regard to the bond and the meaning of that, because the question that I just asked Mr Henderson around what his thoughts were about that wouldn't be like Councillor Mitchell said, the $5,000 for road wouldn't fill a pothole, $30,000 won't rehabilitate a site like that. So is there a chance that we can change the wording around that bond to actually
Councillor Mitchell, just a moment, please. Ms Dennis, could you please outline the purpose of a bond in this circumstance? Would that be appropriate, Councillor Glover, to support your question?
That would be really helpful. Because it's J is different to item 23 as well.
Sorry, that was that last sentence? What was that?
Item J is different, slightly different understanding as number 23.
Okay, you right with that? Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam President. So the condition is consistent with our extractive industry local law. It's the way it's been applied for a number of years. I think I have mentioned to Council before, it's something we definitely want to review, as well as how this bond amount is calculated. So the intent of the advice note is to confirm that there is already a bond in place for this site. So there's two separate bonds. One is a $30,000 rehab bond and one is a $5,000 bond. The new condition proposes to amalgamate that as the one bond, and it's around enforcement if the rehab works aren't done, that money will be drawn upon to initiate compliance action. It's definitely not to do the rehab, acknowledging that rehab that's a drop in the ocean for those kinds of costs. So that's the intent of the way that we are applying the bonds now, and it's been consistently applied in the last few extractive industry applications.
Thank you, Ms Dennis. CEO, did you have anything to add there?
No, that's
right.
exactly what I was going to do.
Now, would you like to move an amendment, Councillor Glover?
I'm just rereading it, and I guess the main part of item J speaks to rehabilitation works or to undertake any necessary compliance action, and I think that part satisfies my need in regard to that, because it's not about the $35,000 being used for rehabilitation, it's to take legal action against if the rehabilitation works are not carried out to the satisfaction of the Shire.
100%.
Well done. All right, now, councillor Lindemann, you're speaking for the motion?
Yeah, I'm going to speak for it, which is always difficult when we're talking about extractions close to town, etc. But the fact that it's been there a long time, it's sought after. It's not a new extraction. We've added more restrictions and more conditions. There's the least amount of waste, which is very exciting for me because in every sort of extraction process there's always a lot of waste. If you're using all of it, you basically can call that sustainable. So I like that. Also, yeah, just the low environmental impact compared to any other materials that you'd be extracting. So seems fair and reasonable to me.
Thank you, councillor Lindemann. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? Anyone else like to speak for the motion? Okay, we'll put that to vote. Oh, sorry, right of reply, my common error, with councillor Mitchell.
I will say, sorry, I did not pick that bit up. Being doing the agenda briefing remotely, you do miss a certain amount, so thank you.
Thank you. We'll put that to vote. Councillors, all those in favour? And against?
Councillor Shand. Motion carried.
That's carried. Moving to item 9.1.2, development application P25008 for a new dam at lot 70 and lot 903, Valentine Road, Upper Capel. Councillor Mitchell has declared a proximity interest as she lives on Valentine Road, is not on the same watercourse and knows a neighbour. Councillors, we have an executive recommendation before us with conditions and advice. Would you like to move the recommendation? Councillor Patrick. And second, Councillor Lindemann. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Thank you. Ultimately, I do have concerns with this recommendation, but those concerns will hopefully are alleviated by the requirement to have professional people actually designing, monitoring and managing, well, not managing, but managing the development, I guess, or like I said, the design of the dam. So ultimately, I think, these kind of builds are important for industry within the region. And I think the requirements that have been put on there by the officers report ensure that the neighbouring properties aren't affected and that there is that scope for recourse if there is any negative impact on the neighbouring properties. So as such, I recommend we support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Lindemann.
I had similar concerns. However, looking at the most recent amount of water they're going to be pulling out of the Yarragadee and the increase from Water Corp, I feel we have no other options but to start looking at probably water capture for our region and for self-sustaining water for properties, because where else are they going to get it? Also, I think fires will increase and, the helicopters come down and they pull straight out of dams, so they're almost doing us a service to be available. So that's probably my few reasons of why I'd support this.
Thank you, Councillor Lindemann. Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? If no one's planning to speak against the recommendation, we'll put that to vote. All in favour? That's carried. Moving on to 9.1.3, development application P25011, the Kirrup Tavern extended licence area for events at lot 101 or 47 Southwestern Highway, Kirrup. We have an executive recommendation before us with conditions and advice, I think. I did have a question, if you don't mind, councillors, before we move into moving the motion. Ms. Dennis, I was going to call you Ms. Mitchell. I didn't quite understand the relationship between the campsite and the extended liquor licence events. In 4 and 5, I understood that. And when I got to note V, the advice note V, or 5, it states that campsites within the licensed area are not to be used during the active liquor licence times. Does that mean the extended liquor licence times? So campsites within the licensed area are not to be used during active liquor licence times.
Thank you for that question. Yes, so currently a portion of that proposed extended licence area is licensed for a campground. So what we've tried to say is that while it's being used for an event, it can't be used as a campground. So there's
just
no,
at that event.
just for that particular period. So it's just to sort of, you know, for the times that you're operating the event, the campsite's not available, but once the event's over, then it can revert back to being used as a campground. So we're kind of like trying to provide as much flexibility for the applicant as possible.
Thank you.
That was the intent.
Thank you. Right, so we have the recommendation with conditions and advice. Would councillors like to move that? Councillor Bailey. And a seconder? Councillor Glover. Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair, look, I think it's a great idea. It's a very well controlled environment. I wish it all the best.
Thank you. And Councillor Glover?
Yeah, I think doing this for Curup would be a really great idea as well, just to bring more business to Curup, add a bit more entertainment to the area as well.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the item? If there's no debate against the item, we'll put it straight to vote. All those in favour? Carried. Moving on to item 9.1.4, the Dark Down South Open Air Festival. Again, we have an executive recommendation with conditions and advice. Would you like to move the recommendation, councillors? Councillor Lindeman and Councillor Patrick. Councillor Lindeman.
Thanks. I think everyone's well aware of my support for live events, festivals, things that bring people joy. So I've also attended this festival and I did write a report on that. That report contained things that were unbiased. I just went and visually watched what went on. They had pretty low numbers at that time, just a few hundred people. Police were leaving when I arrived. You were checked when you got in, you were directed where to go, people could camp, and then there was big open spaces, and besides the music, it was pretty quiet. But I'd recommend you all wear black. That's what I would say. There were some children there, all with earmuffs, really respectable. They're not young people going there. Well, they are young to me, but they're not really young. Visually it was well controlled. Also in support of live music, the number of live music events and festivals is declining here in Australia. Obviously rising operational costs and cost of living pressures. So these people are taking it upon themselves to run a festival. It's high risk, high stuff. The sort of percentages that they get now is around 10 to 30%, and that's dwindling. So even greater risk to get that turnover. You've got to sell the tickets before you even get the event going, and those at the door. In our festivals in our area, predominantly always Australian bands, with the most being WA based, which I also think is important to support our local artists. They don't get paid super, so this is their livelihoods for a lot of them. I want to support the arts, good times, joy. Just connecting with other people is important in the real world, in real life, and it's a little escape from pretty much dramatic events around the world. Everyone loves music. I always say this, it's just a matter of taste. So I support this event.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Look, I don't really have much to add other than, I know that the feedback from this event last year, my understanding was there was no negative feedback from the community. It was, the debrief was really good. the feedback was really good to the Shire. So I wouldn't see any reason not to support reholding an event that was very successful and that there were no complaints about. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Gubler?
Yeah, just in relation to item 2D relating to the public liability insurance. I just think that we need to investigate whether that's high enough, seeing it's in a bushfire season in November, so there's bush alongside, and also what activities that's happening at the festival, so it needs to be properly investigated that we're not under-insuring or asking to be under-insured, that's all, and that's my opposition to it.
Thank you, Councillor Gubler. And anyone else like to speak for the event? Against the event? Councillor Shand?
Sorry, I'm going to be the party pooper. Yeah, there are people that contact me who don't particularly want these 3-day events in town or in our Shire. So I have to be the person who speaks on their behalf, because that's my role, and say no.
Thank you, Councillor Shand. That's a 2-day event. Yep. Just to be correct. And would anyone else like to speak for or against the event? And right of reply, Councillor Lindeman.
I don't really want to have to say much more, except that, there's always going to be people that aren't happy. There's always going to be dissatisfied people, but we have to allow people to live and enjoy their lives, and sometimes we have to show tolerance to what's going on around us as well. I don't mind heavy metal, I like dance, I like whatever. Everyone's got their different tastes. So I just think you need to show a little tolerance, because that does bring in income. It does allow people to have fantastic time. It's great for showcasing here in Donnybrook. So that would be all I'd say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. We'll just put that to vote. All those in favour? Just hold that a second for...
Yep, so all in favour, Councillor Lindeman, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Patrick, Councillor Glover and President McCarthy.
And all those against?
Councillor Bailey, Councillor Gubler and Councillor Shand.
Thank you, councillors. Item 9.1.5 is on block. Item 9. That takes us up to item 9.2, Director for Finance and Corporate, and item 9.2.1, 9.2.2 and 9.2.3 have been approved en bloc. That brings us to item 9.2.4, Delegations Register Review. And councillors, we have an executive recommendation that requires an absolute majority decision. Would you like to move the recommendation? Councillor Mitchell, and second, Councillor Lindeman. And Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
I do recall reading it. I do recall going, oh my goodness, that's a lot of compliance. My only comment is I believe it's business as usual. I couldn't pick out anything that I wasn't happy with. So I urge you to support it unless you know more about legislation than I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for? Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Look, I'd just briefly like to say, thank you to those that put a lot of work into this. I know from some of the councillors the compliance has been a big agenda item and been pushed through the Audit and Risk Committee. So there's obviously a lot of work that's gone into this to make sure that we are sort of working at best practice. So thank you to the administration staff that have put a lot of work into that.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? either for or against? Councillor Mitchell? Okay. We'll put that to vote, councillors. All those in favour? And that's carried. At item 9.2.5, we have the executive recommendation for the annual council plan review for 2024-25. Just a moment, councillors. Okay. All right, this is again an absolute majority decision. Would councillors like to move the recommendation? Councillor Mitchell? Councillor Glover? Councillor Mitchell?
Yes. I'm just trying to quickly remember what I read, which was 2 weeks ago. As you all know, I'm not a fan of this sort of thing, but however, we must do what we must do, and once again, a substantial amount of work, and I'm quite sure if anyone had any major objections to it, we would be hearing about it, and they would have brought it to the fore at workshops, etc., moving earlier. So I think it must be pretty good to go. It just seemed that way to me. Thank you.
And Councillor Glover?
Yeah, I'm in favour of a good plan. Without a plan, we don't know where we're going, and then it doesn't roll out from there about how we spend our money, budget, things like that too. So I think it's really good that we've done a review. We've, shown what we have achieved and where we'd like to go forward from there as well. And also note that the plan will be again reviewed next year and updated from there as well. So, I like a plan and I like to see that it's always reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Is anyone thinking of speaking against the council plan? All right, we'll just put it straight to vote. First of all, write a reply if you'd like it, Anne. We'll put it to vote then. All those in favour? Carried. Taking us to item 9.2.6, once again an absolute majority decision is required for the adoption of the 25-26 fees and charges. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Oh, sorry, CEO?
So sorry to interject and through you, Chair. The reason why this matter has been brought before councillors this evening is that since the adoption at the last OCM, there were a couple of matters that did come to light, and some of them were a timing issue, as well as, I guess, a final check and balance from a governance perspective did bring out, I think, the last one, which is 3.1, which is the EV charging station. We'd overlooked that one because of the responsibility to come back to council. So that's why this matter is brought back to you tonight. It's not adopting the whole of the fees and charges. And I'll probably just reiterate through you, Chair, is that they will be brought back again as part of the formal adoption of the budget. And at that time, there will be some further clarity regarding the proposed waste levy or the waste services charges. That'll be on the back of the outcome of the FOGO tender that's on foot at the moment.
Thank you, CEO. Right. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Patrick? Councillor Shand? And Councillor Patrick? No. Anyone like to speak against the motion? We'll put it straight to vote. All those in favour? Carried. At 9.3, there are no reports from the Chief Executive Officer. And at item 10, there are no reports from elected members. At item 11, there's no new business of an urgent nature. So that moves us to Item 12, matters closed to the public. We have 2 matters for decision which are considered confidential in accordance with section 5.232C of the Local Government Act 1995, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public. The first item will be 12.1.1, Bridge 3617, awarding an unbudgeted urgent repair works, and the second will be 12.1.2, request for tender? Is that the acronym? 092425, Traffic Management Services. We'll ask the public to leave the chambers, I'm sorry, and we'll be pausing the live stream so that we can consider those matters behind closed doors.
Yeah, we just need a motion to go.
And then we will move a motion to close the meeting. Councillors, would you like to move a motion to close the meeting? Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Patrick, all in favour? Thank you. Are we? read the resolutions? Okay, reading the resolutions for item 12.1. Right. Okay, for 12.1.1, Council has approved the executive recommendation that Council note the advice from Main Roads, Western Australia MRWA, regarding the urgent works required on Bridge 3617 Bridge Street, Donnybrook. And item 2 endorses the inclusion of the works into the 2025-26 Shire of Donnybrook annual budget, subject to 2.1, the Council receiving written confirmation from MRWA that they will cover all direct and employee on costs associated with the project, with no dollar cap or limitation on those costs prior to its commencement. And 2.2, MRWA fully funding the works. And 2.3, that $19,998 of the cost of these works will come from surplus monies held by the Shire, previously received from the Local Government Grant Commission towards other recent renewal works on Bridge 3617. And 2.4, that MRWA will fund the Shire's project management costs for the procurement and delivery of these works. And at 3, accepts and endorses the advice from MRWA, recommending Jomar WA Proprietary Limited as the preferred contractor to complete the works based on their submitted price and experience. And 4, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to issue a purpose order to Jomar WA Proprietary Limited for the defined works within their offer prior to the adoption of the 25-26 Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up annual budget. And the approved recommendation at item 12.1.2 that Council 1, requests the Chief Executive Officer to award the panel contract for RFT 092425 Traffic Management Services to A. Allen's Traffic Management Proprietary Limited, B. Workforce International Group, and C. SJ Traffic Management Proprietary Limited. And 2, endorses the awarding of the contracts based on their submitted rates and it being for a period of 3 years. That brings us to closure, and I can advise that the next agenda briefing session will be held on the 16th of July at 5 p.m. in the Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up Council Chambers. And we'll declare the meeting closed at 6:04 p.m.